Hello, and welcome to Recycled EV Content. I'm Scott, and my goal is to help demystify the complex world of battery recycling, breaking down the technical so you don't have to. Join me as we jump right on in. I wanted to start from the beginning as we explore the super exciting world of lithium-ion battery recycling. But first things first, I wanted to explain why this is such a big deal and why recycling is so important. So all EVs need lithium-ion batteries to power them. Until we get to the DeLorean era that we all saw in Back to the Future, where we can put a couple rotten banana peels to create electricity, we're stuck with lithium-ion batteries until new technology advances. On a side note, I don't know if you guys saw, but DeLorean is actually releasing, or at least it appears to be releasing, an electric vehicle with the gull-wing doors that everybody just loved. So that's something I'm super excited about, and I can't wait to see how that electric vehicle hits the market and see the reaction there. But all those electric vehicles that have those batteries, when they reach the end of the life, they're no good, and they don't really last as long. Like, I don't know about you, but I've had many phones where it still worked good enough, but the battery just didn't hold its charge. And the same thing is happening every day as we charge our EVs and they slowly wear out, and we're gonna have to recycle those batteries. Instead of just throwing them in a junk drawer and letting them just rot away, we need to do something with all those materials that are stuck in those batteries and get them out. So with lithium-ion battery recycling, something that's really exciting is the fact that these critical metals can be used virtually indefinitely. There's companies out there today that are claiming over 99% recovery and 99% recovery and purity from these battery metals when they run them through their process. So to see a material used at the front end, used up, once it's expired, it comes back in and it gets remanufactured into new EV batteries. And there's actually some articles and research happening right now that's actually showing evidence that these recycled materials actually are performing at a better level than the original materials that they first started. So the recycling space is so untapped right now, and I see a lot of growth and a lot of potential for a really exciting evolution in terms of the electric vehicle battery space. I was seeing a lot of discussion a few years back that battery recycling is never really going to take off. We'll just use these old battery packs from electric vehicles and we'll put them in a stationary storage somewhere. But to me, that's just a waste of these critical materials that are better suited in a high-powered lithium-ion battery in an electric vehicle rather than sitting in a stationary storage that doesn't have the same high-power electrical load required on it. This first stream of recycling that everybody first started talking about was the end-of-life batteries, where they would take those same batteries and they would actually shred them through a really fancy shredder, and those shredded scraps would be turned into black mass. There's a few other nuances to that process, which we'll dive into in greater detail in a further video. But what had happened is that is all that black mass, and that can then be processed into battery precursor materials to then be put back into the front end so it can be turned back into lithium-ion batteries. The second stream, which I think is way more exciting and kind of it wasn't talked about in the early days, we're starting to see a lot more discussion from a lot more OEMs regarding the second stream. And the second stream is production scraps. Now you may be wondering, what is production scraps? I've tried to make a bit of an analogy, so run with me on this one and I'll hopefully be able to explain it pretty well. So if you ever made gingerbread cookies and you roll out the dough and then you got the cookie cutter and you cut out all your cookies, once you've taken all those cookies out of your dough, what are you left with? You're left with a bunch of extra dough, and that dough is your production scrap. So the same thing happens in our gigafactories that are producing battery materials. However, when you're making gingerbread cookies, it's pretty easy to take all that dough, you roll it up in a ball, and then you start rolling it out again, and you can make more cookies. However, when we're talking cathode materials, all those scraps that maybe it's offcuttings or trimmings or maybe material that didn't meet spec, all that material can't just be re-rolled out again. It has to be taken back down to its basic ingredients. So now with the battery materials, you can't just roll them back up in a ball and cut them again. All those off cuttings and the scraps and the trimmings, those all have to be taken, put into a recycling process to break down that cathode material back into its original ingredients. They take those original ingredients, put them back into the front end of the battery production line, and then those materials can then be created into a new cathode material. So this is where we call production scrap. And right now, it is a lot of material. The average gigafactory runs at about a 10% scrap rate. So in terms of supply, there's no shortage. And some early estimates that I've seen are estimating around, by 2025, it's estimated around $2.9 billion of production scrap will hit the shop floor in these gigafactories that are set to be online by the end of 2025. However, all that material is valuable and it needs to be recycled, so these battery manufacturing facilities can actually be truly environmentally friendly and using that material in the most economical way possible. And not just taking the material and sending it to whichever recycler will recycle it, but really focusing on the recyclers that are providing high extraction rates and high purity rates. And if you're like me and you want to see even more adoption of the EVs worldwide, this process of actually recycling these batteries and ensuring that we're environmentally friendly needs to be tackled before we just start coming out with the next model of electric vehicle. We really need to hone in on the batteries that power these vehicles, not so much if it's got a new body or it's got 5 doors or 4 doors. We really need to focus on what moves these vehicles forward and the amount of impact that those materials have globally. If we jump back into the gingerbread one last time, just why would we ever waste all that valuable dough from the production of our cookies, aka cathode materials, when there's a process out there that we can take that same material, put it back into a system, make those basic ingredients again, and then run it back into the front end of the battery production facility. This needs to be addressed today so we can actually see a better tomorrow and a greater future for the electric vehicle space. So guys, this is where I need your help. If you found that you learned something new about battery recycling, I really would appreciate it if you hit that like button down below. And if you've got a question about maybe something I talked about or something that you want to hear about, please put that in the comments section, because again, that helps me build out this channel, so it really helps you, the viewer, get something from it. And again, I really appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for watching. Please, if you feel like supporting me in this channel and where we can go in the future, consider supporting me through Patreon on my Patreon page. Again, thanks for watching. Bye for now.